Hello everybody. We have reached the second episode of translation series, and in this episode we are talking about consecutive translation, and inshallah with the next episode we will talk about simultaneous translation. As you are already put in the picture that verbal translation has two types. One is consecutive and one is simultaneous. So over here we are talking about consecutive translation versus simultaneous translation. What are the pros with this? Then we're talking what is note taking, is it necessary or required with consecutive translation? And then we will talk about the 7 points that are really important in the main body of today's seminar. But at the beginning, I like to have a disclaimer. And with this disclaimer, I like to say that it's to the best of my knowledge, it's based on my research as well as my past years experiences in translation industry. So I tried my best to make a comprehensive seminar, but still, if you find some of the points, some of the things that are not included in this seminar, please use them as well. So now, consecutive translation versus simultaneous translation. What are the pros with consecutive translation? I'm just going to read 4 pros or 4 goodnesses. First, in consecutive translation, reading and understanding is first, analyzing and reformulating is next. Second, in consecutive, you do know what is next. Third, in consecutive, you do not hear a voice to disrupt your attention. Fourth, in consecutive translation, you do have that much time to come up with a natural translation. That are the 4 pros or the goodnesses with consecutive translation rather than simultaneous translation. Now, we are talking about note taking. Is it required? Is it good? In consecutive translation, yes, it is a must. With a professional translator, it is a must. He or she must have a pen and a notebook. And what are the goodnesses with that? What are the pros? First, for digits, figures, dates, numbers, date your note on top of the page. What does it mean? It means if there is a digit, if there is a figures, if there is dates, if there is numbers, you cannot memorize all of them, and you cannot summarize all of them, and you cannot remember all of them. So you have to have a notebook and a pen, and you have to write down that. And the second point was that you have to date on the top of the page that this is, let's say, Friday, July 21st in this year. So you have to have a note whenever you need it in the future. The second thing is, especially in the speech, if a speech gets longer, if you have a notebook and a pen and the speech gets longer, that helps you a lot to point out some of the notes so you don't have to forget. And the third point, note taking in target language or source language or mix of the two, which means that, let's say, if I make a translation between Pashto and English, and over there, if I'm very convenient with Pashto, I can do that. If I'm convenient with English, I can do that. And then if I like to do both as a mix of them and with my note taking, I can do that. But mostly or generally speaking, English is a little bit shorter than other languages based on my experience in 4 languages. Now coming to the 7 points, once again, to the best of my knowledge, these are the comprehensive points. I hope nothing is left behind, but still, if you find somewhere some of the points which are not included here, please use them. So the first thing, body positioning. Let's say you are making a verbal translation, a consecutive one between the between the interviewer and the interviewee. Now let's say, for instance, here is the one who's sitting here, and here is the interviewee, right? This is the interviewer, and this is the interviewee. So when you are making translation, what's your body positioning? Where should you be? So first of all, you have to be beside who? Beside the interviewee. Let's say somewhere here. Now, while you are here beside him, you have to slightly back yourself. So you have to be somewhere here. Well, I'm not good at painting that much, but it's not that bad. So let's say if this is the interviewer, this is the interviewee, so you have to be beside him or her and slightly little back. That's a good positioning. Now, what is the pros with this? If you do so, what are the pros? Now, the first thing is that, so we are starting from here. It emphasizes the message, not the interpreter. If you are here, it emphasizes the message, not the interpreter. B, it reduces distraction. C, it increases engagements. It increases engagements among all parties, especially the interviewer and interviewee. Now, what's the next point? Speak in first person. That simply means that if the interviewer is asking, what is your name? So you don't have to ask him that he is asking, what is your name? No, you should speak in first person. You just have to say, what's your name? Or let's say, if he is telling, my name is Ahmad, so you don't have to tell the interviewer that he is saying his name is Ahmad. No, when he said, I'm Ahmad or my name is Ahmad, you have to tell him he is Ahmad. My name is Ahmad. That's speaking in first person. So what are the pros with this one? First, interpreter transparency. It shows interpreter transparency. Second, it conveys accurate message. Third, it reduces confusion. Now, number 3, never add, omit, or substitute. When you hear something, never add to it, never substitute, or never omit. Nothing. Why? Because it takes away from the message. It takes something away from the message. B, it eliminates useful information. C, it can change intent or it can change the destination or the intent or the intention of the message. Now we are going to number 4, handling side conversations. I personally have been through that a lot of time. Some of the time, the interviewee, let's say you are hired by interviewer or you are working for them as a temporary for this session or as a permanent, but the interviewee is asking you some of personal question when he or she gets the chance. Hey, what's your name? Which religion do you belong to? Which part of country are you from? What's your preference of this and that? So you have to handle those. Why? Because there is a lot of points that we will reach to that. If you don't handle that, that removes the confidence from both parties, especially the interviewer. They may not hire you the next time, or there should be some other bad consequences. So you have to handle side conversation. First, it should be rare, which simply means that if he or she is asking you a question, well, you can answer as short as you can, and then you have to look at the interviewer or to the other side, or let's say in some way that you are not showing interest to answer more personal questions. So that's one, it should be rare. B, never exclude the other party. You shouldn't exclude the third party, the other party, which simply means you have to make him aware or make her aware what's going on, what did she ask you. That's a good thing to do. And see, main role boundaries. You have to keep main role boundaries. If you're hired for temporary or permanent, you have to be loyal to whoever hire you, and you don't have to disobey the boundaries or the policies they have or they have already told you. Now we are going to the clarifying or clarification. That's the 5th point with clarification. If somebody tells you something and you don't know what she said or he said, you have to ask him again and again. That's fine, but you have to ask him and make sure what did he or she said. If you don't do that, that creates some bad consequences. Now, why would you do that? First, create less disruption. If you do so, that creates less disruption. B, it creates better flow, right? Now, number C, it prevents the exclusion. It prevents the what? The exclusion of one party from the conversation. That's the point. Number 6, managing the session. Managing the session means that if somebody speaks too much, you have to stop him and convey the message or make a translation for whatever you heard so far, not less than that, and keep on. So that's why I said, stop if says too much. If he says too much, you have to stop him or her and then translate it all you heard, not partial of them. That's one point. And the other things are, number 1, or the pros. It creates better flow. Number B, it reduces the need to summarize. If he speaks too much or she speaks too much and you just let him go on, and then you hear and you hear, so then you have to make a summarization of that, which you shouldn't actually do. And it also helps you not to summarize at the end. Now the last point we are making, and that's really, really important to some people, even at some points for myself, it was not looking that important, but later on I found out it's really important. So that's the tone, the register, and the style. So your voice, your gesture, your laugh must indicate. Now let's see, I have used the word must because it shows the highly important. So it must indicate the speaker, So when you are showing your gesture, your voice, or your laugh, it must indicate the speaker. Why? Because words are part of the translation. Words are parts of the translation. So with these things, the translation gets complete. That's why you have to do that as well. Now, what are the pros? The first, it prevents confusion. Second, or B, it ensures accuracy or accurate message is conveyed. And most importantly, number C, it instills confidence in both parties, the interviewer and the interviewee, or if it is a court between, the judges or whoever is hearing, and also the client, the customer who is over there. And again, if you do so, they may hire you again and again, and they may even hire you as a permanent. But if you're not doing that, then you may lose the chance for the next time, which is not good. And you are not someone to create that kind of trust for yourself. That's a distrust actually. So with this session, we are done, and inshallah, once again, we are going to the third episode, and we are talking about the simultaneous translation with all those details that have to be considered for simultaneous translation. And I'm asking you guys, if there is any brother and sister who is in need of such education, please convey this message and share the video with them. Thank you so much. Jazakumullah khair. You have a nice time.